Hello, welcome to RhAPPcast, the official voice of Rheumatology Advanced Practice Providers. I'm Amanda Mixon, sitting president of RhAPP, and your host. Today's episode is particularly close to our hearts as we delve into biosimilars from the patient perspective. Now we're doing something we've yet to do on RhAPPcast. Joining us today is a very special guest, Kris, who is a patient who's actually experienced the transition to a biosimilar firsthand. So together we're going to explore the real-world impact of biosimilars through his eyes, and we'll uncover Kris's initial concerns, the misconceptions maybe that he faced, and how the journey evolved into a success story. Thank you so much for joining us, Kris, and helping us bring this perspective that we haven't yet included on the podcast. You're actually our first patient that has been on the podcast. So I just, it's so special. Obviously, we know each other very, very well. So why don't you just kind of start our listeners from the beginning of being diagnosed as much as you feel comfortable with?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to share. So, I got diagnosed when I was 21. I had started to have some pain in my fingers and shoulders, and I was an athlete growing up, and I was training for a mixed martial arts fight, and the doctors initially, the orthopedic doctors, thought it was just overtraining, and had a fight where I got knocked out, and that was September of 2006. And by January of 2007, it was pretty evident that it was rheumatoid because it was into all my joints with fingers and knees and ribs, and went from being an athlete to couldn't button my shirt or tie my tie, and we diagnosed it pretty quick to where we were in the rheumatoid office getting treated.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to remember how long I've actually been seeing you. Do you remember?
Yeah, because so I started on the traditional methotrexate type treatment in 2006, and then you came to that office in, I believe, summer of 2010.
Sounds right.
Yeah. And that's when we made the transition.
Yeah. And it's really, you're such a success story because, with proper treatment, which is biologic, and for those listeners, Kris was started on Humira and has just done so markedly well with Humira. And you've actually were able to continue really being a professional athlete. Can you talk just a little bit about that? Even though I really couldn't stand it because I was always so scared and worried for you. But yeah, talk a little bit about that.
I mean, it was crazy because you came June. We had started that conversation. July, I actually got hospitalized with they called it, I think they diagnosed it, you would know better, but rhabdomyolysis.
Yep.
I was in so much pain one night that my body was struggling. And so July, you put me on Humira, and by November, I had no pain, no symptoms. And like you said, to your not approval, I went back to the fighting gym November of 2010 and started competing. And from that time, I had 21 mixed martial arts cage fights, and was I progressed into the professional ranks and fought 15 times professionally all over the U.S., internationally, training 16 plus times a week, putting my body through everything a professional athlete does, and had no symptoms during all of that time on Humira.
Yeah, it was a total game changer, and it was so incredible to, watch your journey and obviously see you go into remission and be able to have this successful fighting career. I have to say I'm very happy that you have retired from that, though, especially as you get older. But yeah, we've been together for a long time, and I couldn't think of anybody that would be better because, recently we did go through this process of transitioning to a biosimilar. So really, that's what this episode is about. It's a deep dive into a patient's experience, to see what it really actually feels like, which, to be completely honest, I haven't actually asked you what it feels like. So I'm really excited, even just from, being your provider, to kind of hear about it and the challenges, etc. So again, whether you're a provider, a patient, or someone just looking to learn more about the world of biosimilars, this episode promises to enlighten and inspire. So please sit back, relax, and join us on this insightful journey into Kris's perspective on biosimilars. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I have lots of questions for you. So let's just start from the beginning. I mean, tell me what your initial thoughts were, and feelings when, the transition was suggested to a biosimilar, because it didn't actually come from me, right? It came from your insurance, I believe, right? So what happened?
The pharmacy, I would assume, because, cost and cost savings, and they said, we want to switch to this, and we're reaching out to your provider. And so, the biggest fear was it was working. Like, everything was fine. Like, I went, what is that, 14 years with no symptoms, where I could do everything athletically that I wanted to, fighting professionally, and then wanting to switch medications. Well, there's some fear there, because it's like, I don't want to go back to where I was, where I couldn't do any of those things. And so, when the pharmacy told me, I was like, no, I'm going to talk to Amanda. So, that was the initial.
And so obviously I feel like what I'm hearing is, which I assume, and this is what I'm hearing also from patients that are, messaging me on a fairly regular basis, that they're scared, right? Because they're so used to this medication that they've been on. And for you, I mean, Humira in a lot of ways saved your life. I mean, that sounds very, dramatic, but it's so true. So it's like, to then have this, oh my gosh, we're going to be switching you to this different medication, which is the same, but also a biosimilar, not a generic. So other than fear, was there anything else that you kind of were thinking initially, or it was just like, hey, no, I'm definitely not going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing, is I don't want to go back. Like, it was so long ago, but everything was fine. And so I think that for me is just, I didn't want to risk physical changes to my body there.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you had a visit, and at this point, I don't see you that often, because you're doing so well, and I don't really need to. But we chatted about it, and I kind of explained that, it's not really up to me. I obviously, I had some initial hesitations about changing people for the same reason, right? I mean, even with all the literature, even with all of the studies, it's still scary to know that you're changing a patient to something that is not what they've been on for the last, to your point, 14 years. So what actually was the experience of actually making, so once we talked, and kind of talked you off the ledge of like, this is going to be okay, we're in this together. Tell me about your experience during that kind of first few weeks of switching, because I don't recall it being that, like, there was some challenges, I feel like, when we made the initial switch, right?
Yeah, I mean, mainly getting it to all officially go through the insurance and pharmacy, and with our insurance, I have to do a mail order pharmacy, and so just getting everybody on the same page that way. But I mean, the meeting was the decision, because I mean, obviously your original foresight in changing me to Humira is what caused my life to change. So I'm like, if Amanda says it's okay, it's okay. Like, I mean, you know, you have been at multiple practices during that 14 years and I follow you, right? Like, I'm like, no, like because I trust you. And so that was the biggest like decision maker, was that you've earned that trust over that time. So if you said it was okay, it was going to be okay. But it was really just the initial was just getting insurance and pharmacy on board. But
thank you, by the way. I always consider it to be such an honor that I get to do this every day and take care of people. And I take it very, very seriously, and probably why I've had so many people follow me, which is a whole nother podcast on my transition to different practices, but that is for another time and place. So other than like the official kind of getting it from the pharmacies, or any other challenges that you saw, like actually getting it? Did it look the same? Because these are actually questions I don't really know the answers to. So I'm interested to hear your perspective on it.
As far as I could tell, it all looks the same. Like, it's all been like, did it happen? Is it good? Like, I think it's good. Like, and so really it'd been just taking it as normal.
Okay.
So the transition was good. I didn't notice any major differences that way.
That's awesome. So, you got the medicine in the mail, and really it looks similarly, kind of feels similarly. So there's no real issues in terms of the injection. Were there any additional resources or support that helped you to understand, like, and adjust to the biosimilar, or was it just more like the conversation that you and I had, and then it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to do it?
Mainly the conversation that you and I had. I had another conversation with a doctor while I was fighting, one of the fight doctors, who he had been talking about there's so many cool things happening with medicine, and just some of them are going to be scary, but to try it, because he was talking more about like pharmaceuticals that map to people's genes, and I was like going way over my head as a non-medical person, but I think combination of that, and then just mainly just, again, you said it was good, it'd be all right, and I was like, okay, we'll do it.
I was gonna say, I wish all of my patients were that simple. I just say it and they just do it. I mean, that would make my life so much easier.
Except for my work.
Well, that's so you didn't really need much additional. I mean, and again, the adalimumab biosimilars, I think, are pretty easy, just because, again, to your point, it looks the same, it feels the same. It's, most of them are citrate free, if not all. And so, it should feel the same way as doing your regular Humira. As you kind of look back, as now you've been transitioned and are obviously doing well, is there anything that you feel like as a patient should have been done differently, whether it be, I don't know, from the insurance or the pharmacy or me, as you kind of have seen this? I mean, even also for just future patients to know, and for our providers that are facing this on a daily basis, talking to their patients about these switches.
Yeah, maybe the fact that the first conversation was the insurance, was the pharmacy going, hey, we got to switch this. Like, and obviously the pharmacy did a good job, but it was like, we're switching what? No, we're not switching. We're not switching that. But yeah, if there was a way, and I don't know, because obviously billing and insurance played probably a key role in that. But if there was a way to have that conversation, like if it was reversed, where you and I had talked and then they had called, then I would have been just like, we would have been moving on faster that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that in a dream world, I think that would be the best way, that, we have the conversation first. I know just recently, a specialty pharmacy changed everyone from Humira to an adalimumab biosimilar. And so they contacted me. So this is a little bit after you, but they contacted me, and I think at the same time the patients, but that actually gave me a heads up because I was able to reach out to the patients too and say, hey, this is happening. And in addition to that, so I'm seeing that more frequently where I'm getting kind of lists of like, hey, here's the patients that we will be transitioning, basically kind of giving me that heads up so that I'm able to contact the patient and say, hey, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Like, we're in this together, but I think it's all going to be okay. But yes, to your point, I think better communication is what's key. And obviously having the conversation between provider and patient first, I think ultimately makes for a better successful transition. Is there any advice that you might give to patients who are considering transition or really don't have a choice, like that they are going to be transitioning to a biosimilar?
I mean, at least for me, it's been okay. Like no regression in how I feel, and it's felt like normal, So, which that's what's most important for me.
Absolutely. And I think that's truly, Kris, that's what the clinical trials showed. Like the different companies that have studied these, I mean, that's what they're seeing. They're changing people from, the regular to a biosimilar back to because what we kind of want to understand is this whole idea of what's called immunogenicity, which basically means your body kind of gets smart to the drug that you're on and starts to form antibodies. And so they really haven't seen that happen. So theoretically, the story should be like yours. I mean, they should be kind of an easy switch and you don't really notice a difference. And instead of getting Humira, you're getting whatever biosimilar for adalimumab it is. And that's kind of how it should be. So, again, I feel like what I'm hearing from you is, the confidence, obviously, that you have in me and the relationship that we've established as to, like, if I say it's going to be okay, then it hopefully will be okay. And, and then your transition has been relatively easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's been a simple transition and trusted, and it's been a great life-changing 14 years. So keep trusting.
So I love that. And again, it means so much to me that you would be here and, talk with us. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to listen to this. And I think, again, my takeaways are just having open communication through provider and patient and really understanding the why that this is happening. And I think ultimately it will be really good for way more patients are going to have access, I think, to biologics than they ever have before because of this. Right. And that biosimilars are safe. They're really not going anywhere. And, of course, if someone does have an issue, that might, of course, because everything is not for everyone. And then, potentially you could go back to the name brand because it's not just adalimumab, right? This is happening with lots of biologics and more to come. So, yeah, well, again, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think it's super helpful for, our providers that are listening and also patients maybe that are tuning in.
Well, thanks for having me and thanks for all you do.
Oh, well, of course, it's an honor. So as we close the episode for today, I really, again, want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Kris, who, again, I can't believe, I say to my patients, and I think I probably said it to you, but like, we're actually growing old together, I feel like. And, I've seen you obviously with little babies and, and you've seen me be pregnant and pregnant again. And, so our kids are kind of growing up together, in the same town. And it's just so fun. It's so fun to have this kind of relationship with a patient and get to see them as, we go through our lives kind of together. Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will be the last place that I practice, so you won't have to follow me again. That's what I very much like. I'll never forget when you used to come in with the baby and you had a little rattle that was the dumbbell. That was just like the cutest thing I've ever seen. It's very fitting for you. So, anyways, your openness and the experiences really do help also see the human side of this, because at the end of the day, that's the most important, is we're treating patients. We're treating people who have lives, who have stories, who have journeys. And so again, it's just so amazing to have the opportunity to have you on. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We hope this episode has provided you a deeper understanding of biosimilars from a patient standpoint, and maybe given you some ideas. Really, that open communication and just, obviously building that trust is super important. Please remember that RhAPPcast is here to be your source of information and inspiration in the field of rheumatology. So, of course, please make sure you subscribe to RhAPPcast on your favorite podcast platform. I'm sure now, Kris, you're going to be listening for every single episode of RhAPPcast and sharing with all of your friends. So please stay tuned for updated episodes. And obviously, we aren't just a podcast. We're so much more than that. So visit rhap.org. You can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, RhAPP. And that will have all of our updated, announcements and content, etc. So we look forward to seeing you there. Again, I'm Amanda Mixon, so thank you so much for joining us. And please stay informed and have compassion in your practice. So until next time, take care and keep making a difference in the lives of those you serve.